think I've made it quite clear over the course of this show that I'm just about ruddy sick of it. I'm sick of the injustice, I'm sick of the disparity, I'm sick of the abuse that goes on in the industry and the wider socio-economic systems that we're all trapped in as a whole. And I know what some of you are thinking, well, Jim, it's all very well you being fed up, but what are you gonna do about it? Well, I have a plan. The time is ready, and I think some of the more revolutionary among you know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, that. Yggdrasil, my friend. The world tree. We find out the hallowed ground, wherever that shit be growing, right? We go over there with axes. We chop it down. We take Yggdrasil, the world tree, to my cousin's house. He's got a lockup. Sorted. Bosh. Get it in there. Get some circular saws going. I know someone called Lloyd. He and his friends live down by the river. They find circular all sorts of things. Some of them alive, some of them rusty. The rusty ones are what we want to look at. Bring them back to the lockup. Here's where things get juicy. We strip that thing down for parts. Branches, gone. Leaves, bye-bye. We take the trunk, we turn that into logs. Now, here's where the billionaires fund their own demise. We sell authentic Yggdrasil, the world tree logs to billionaires. They will pay top dollar. And then we take that money, we use it to fund our own company, a media empire. We buy advertising time. I run public service announcements reminding Jeff Bezos he owes me £1 million. That's right, Jeffrey! Time to pay the piper! I want them queen quids! So, Justin, where's Yggdrasil, the world tree? Is it in Valhalla or Midgard? What are those?
Maybe Norway?
What are you fucking talking?
Marvel's Avengers delivers a narrative over multiple years, with exciting new content released at a regular basis.
Welp, how's that working out for you? Oh. Oh, yes, when Marvel's The Marvel Avengers by Marvel was announced at E3 2019, we were told it would last years. That very much like Anthem before it and Destiny before that, Marvel's Avengers would be a perpetual service that we would want to keep playing forever. And like Anthem before it, as well as Destiny before that, the claim was complete bullshit. Of course it was bullshit, and I'm not just talking about the frankly embarrassing number of people who are still playing the game. It was bullshit because it's always bullshit. It was always gonna be bullshit. It's always been bullshit. Every time a studio promises their game has a decade-long plan or has content designed to be unveiled over several years, they're either lying or they're so incredibly naive as to be fucking idiotic. A handful of games that incidentally blew up and became online powerhouses have actually lasted years, and of them, very few have run to an entire fucking decade. I mean, 10 years. In an industry obsessed with annual sequels, in an industry with the attention span of a magpie, in an industry that cancels projects, lays off staff, and simply gives up on things at the drop of a hat, we're supposed to believe so-called AAA publishers can make a worthy product built to last 10 years. If this industry could actually tell the truth and or keep its promises, we'd still be playing the first Destiny right now, and we still wouldn't be particularly close to finishing it. We were supposed to all still really be into Anthem by now. It was meant to have big chapter updates, but they never came. It was supposed to be getting a big overhaul still, but we've heard nothing in months, and it'll be far too late to drag players back into it now. Do you want to play on your new PS5? No, Mum, shut the fuck up. I've got Anthem to play. As for the Avengers, it released in September, a few weeks ago at the time of talking, and it's already a wasteland. Not Wasteland the game. People play that, people want that. Right now, players of Marvel's The James Cameron's Avengers are struggling to find multiplayer matches because there aren't enough players, and you kind of need players for multiplayer. You need multiples of them. at the very least. That is the reality of what Crystal Dynamics told us was a years-long experience. A couple weeks after launch, and fewer than 1,000 concurrent players can be found on PC, which is a problem for a game that contrived a sense of false longevity entirely off the back of its desperately tacked-on online features. For indeed, you can't have a live service if the player base is dead, and that's something these companies continue to fail to consider when they cobble together a half-baked, bug-ridden, content-poor, thoroughly shoddy product with the intent to fix it after everybody's bought it. It turns out that when you sell garbage, people treat it like garbage and throw it in the fucking bin. Somehow, despite the industry being littered with the corpses of live services that failed to live, it's a lesson developers and publishers obstinately refuse to learn. You can't keep putting out trash and expecting everyone to stick around until you clean it up. We'll move on with our lives and you'll be stuck trying to fix your product for a dwindling audience, throwing good money after bad and fallaciously sinking your costs. See Anthem, see Evolve, see some of the games that came out this year that you don't even know a thing about, like Bleeding Edge or Rogue Company. Actually, Rogue Company came out not too long ago. I don't know if it's doing well, it's rubbish. Or the latest attempt to make the culling a thing, and some of those aren't even terrible. But they're not inspiring, they're not standout, and none of them have ever felt like complete high-quality, content-rich experiences. I quite liked Bleeding Edge. Played it for a couple days. I haven't touched it since. Never will. Now you look at Fall Guys, that's a live service. The developers there keep having to apologise because the servers can't handle the amount of players. They're not having to keep on apologising for the game being shit. As for Marvel's Avengers, well, that game is frankly just shit. Avengers is, in my humble opinion, one of this year's very worst games, and I still scarcely believe it got any critical praise. I mean, there are people who do like this game for some fucked up reason, but I don't know how. Its combat is a sloppy, visually unpleasant mess with a cluttered UI and more physics bugs than the University of Chicago's cockroach training program. That just about works. Visually, it's washed out, lifeless, drab. The character models are the most boring and insipid takes on Marvel's characters perhaps ever. The writing is banal, the microtransactions and battle pass stuff is a total fucking con, and everything's wrapped up in the trappings of a bottom-feeding, looter-shooter service game where the loot is meaningless, menu-filling rubbish, and you spend most of your time fighting generic robots. Even for boss fights, because that's what you want in a Marvel game. Fuck the supervillains, you want robots, and AIM scientists, and AIM robots, and robots, and scientists. Elites. Ooh. It's the consummate AAA game, a pathetically safe corporate-backed rush-to-market product bereft of personality and stuffed with monetization. Basically, if you want to play an even more boring Dynasty Warriors game with a thoroughly uncharismatic splash of comic book paint, Marvel's Avengers is exactly what you want. Once you're done with the game's milquetoast narrative campaign, you have an entire service to look forward to, which is really just the exact same shit with slightly less narrative. And let me tell you, after just a day playing this repetitive, grinding, unsatisfying slog of a time waster, I didn't want any more of it, let alone years of the shit. Apparently only less than 1,000 people have more patience for it than I did, which is the exact same story we had with Anthem last year, because this fucking industry just doesn't learn, and just like Anthem, Marvel's Avengers' developers are now kidding themselves into thinking this cadaver's heart can be jump-started. We are listening, we are making fixes, improvements and additions as fast as we safely can to make Marvel's Avengers the game we all aspire it to be, said Crystal Dynamics' Scott Amos, saying the usual carbon copy exec speak we've heard a million fucking times. You're listening, are you? You're always listening. We are confident that we'll see PC players, as well as those on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, return to the game as we add exciting new late game content and demonstrate that we continue to be focused on improving the game. Scott? Sure. Yeah, all you need to do is add your AIM cloning lab mission and the players will come flocking back to you. Oh yeah, that'll bring the boys back to the yards, won't it? The juicy milkshake of the AIM cloning facility. What even is that? The entire fucking game is an AIM cloning facility. It's all you fucking fight. Yeah, Scott, I used to tell myself I could turn this YouTube channel around, but sometimes you just need to face reality. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jim Sterling. Also, one common thread with a lot of these are live service games. When you see follow-up interviews, post-launch interviews with developers, they're never talking about how great things are. They're never talking about how brilliant the product is. It's all, going forward, we'll improve things, we're listening, we're gonna fix stuff. Brilliant PR. I wonder why people haven't flooded your servers. I'm not the only one to have noticed that we've all heard this song before. Forbes started its story on the Avengers player base woes by copying and pasting an article it wrote about Anthem last year and changing some names. It's almost frightening how identical the two stories are, up to and including mentioning that people are hacked off with the loot. Not just the same basic situation, the same style of game, made for the same cynical motives, facing the same criticisms and suffering the exact same problems. It's almost as if these AAA companies with no substantial experience in service games or looter-shooter style products just barrel into a medium without bothering to learn how things work or whether the market has room for another fucking one of these things. Then they just crap out something unbalanced and unfinished that they have to spend their time apologizing for and fixing instead of building upon. Almost as if people running these studios, BioWare, haven't got a fucking clue. And when their clueless bullshit fucks things up, that just creates more work and crunch for the people on the lower rungs of the ladder. BioWare. Slapping the Marvel logo on something might be a good way to sucker people into an initial purchase, but it's clearly not enough to keep those suckers sucked. No, to keep a player base, you actually need a game worth playing, and you need one when the actual game launches, ideally. You can't keep fucking taking $60, a price you all want to raise to $70 this year, for games that will be worth spending money on 12 months down the line, especially when your unfinished game invariably has a perfectly polished microtransaction store that keeps asking for more cash on top. And that's just fucking insulting, you know that, right? You do know that. Developers and publishers, it's downright offensive for these vapid skeletal products to beg for more money while you're still trying to make them worth the original entry fee. And you really think you deserve to maintain a player base when you do that? No, you don't fucking deserve to keep players. Marvel's Avengers is fucking poison. It's a corporate buffet table which has already seen one of its best characters sectioned off as a PlayStation exclusive. It offers tacky and sickening sponsored skins that turn Captain America into a Verizon billboard, and it features a premium battle pass per character, complete with obligatory mind-numbing grind if you don't want to keep spending money on it. And the skins are shit, that's perhaps the worst part. You take these generic dull as shit stunt double Marvel characters and then you sell cosmetics that mostly look worse than the MCU rip-off costumes they start with. Marvel characters are good, like they're like comic book characters. They're cool, they're colourful, they're wild, you made shit. And then you offered us ways to buy clothes that look like shit so we could dress your shit characters up. Like shit! And about that PlayStation exclusive we brought up, fucking Spider-Man is a PS exclusive. I mean, how can we pretend Avengers deserves more than 1,000 PC players when PC players were told up front that their copy of the game, while costing the same, would inherently have less content than the PlayStation version? Not just less content, but lacking perhaps the most iconic Marvel character of all time. Like being told you couldn't be Batman in a DC game, but others could. That's explicitly what PC and Xbox players learned. If I were them, I wouldn't have bought the game either. Not unless it was a used copy. Crystal Dynamics fucked the pumpkin the very day this game was announced when it said they were planning years of content. Only an imbecile at that moment could have believed that was true, and only someone unfamiliar with the mainstream game industry could have heard that and not dreaded the bullshit that was to follow. And bullshit surely followed. Every bit of news we heard about this game before launch made it sound like a worse and worse deal, and when it came out it was exactly what I dreaded it would be. Yet more AAA live service gloop. I'm not a game developer. Look, I know that. But I know a thing or two about a thing or two, so I have some advice for Crystal Dynamics. Just a thing, just a little outsider bit of wisdom. You need to do more than just say your game won't have fucking loot boxes in it.
So our promise to the community is that we won't have random loot boxes or pay-to-win scenarios.
Yeah, at E3, in front of an audience full of fucking sycophants, you can say your game won't have loot boxes and get a ton of applause and cheering. Easy applause. Easy cheering. At E3 2019, you got the biggest round of applause this game has ever gotten and will ever get, and you earned that applause by doing the absolute bare minimum. Maybe that response let you believe that's all you ever had to do, but as you have just learned, the bare minimum is only good for a cheap crowd pop. It's not going to keep that crowd sticking around now, is it? This year, Fall Guys came out of nowhere to become one of the biggest games in the world. This year, Among Us came out of obscurity to become one of the biggest games in the world. They didn't have massive E3 press conferences dedicated to them. They didn't have heady promises of years-long plans. They also didn't have your budgets and resources and team numbers and marketing. No, one thing they do have that you don't know is players. What they've had is good, replayable, entertaining, polished content. They have content that's actually been fun, that's actually been trying to entertain players rather than draw them in to an addictive gameplay loop. It's the subtle difference between a game designed to provide fun and a game designed to form habits. They didn't even have to try to become huge live games, they just came out and people loved them and here we are. You can't just decide a game will be a mega smash hit and a household name and then try to make a game that lives up to the decision you just made about a game that doesn't exist. That's what BioWare tried to do with Anthem, it's what Crystal Dynamics has tried to do with Avengers, and it doesn't work. You can't just decide your game is beloved. You have to do something people will actually, you know, love. Do you remember when I showed you those Street Sharks animation cells the other week? Well, I was so impressed with them I got some Masters of the Universe ones, and I think I made a mistake getting a popular show because, yeah. What the fuck is this little trumpet boy? It's just a little trumpet boy. This isn't a Master of the Universe. It doesn't even look like a Master of that trumpet. It's shit. Prince Adam's eyes and hair, how in the what the fuck? And I said, hey, what's going on? Ah! This is literally the best one I got. Tila doing nothing. Which brings us to this asshole. Sad Roger. Sad Roger the Wizard. Who I don't know who the fuck it is. It's not Skeletor. It's not Merman. It's not even fucking Triclops. It's Sad Roger, everyone. It's Sad Roger. He's just looking. What does that is not an that is an expression of nothing. That is just an expression of Sad Roger. Put it over there. Thank God for me, and fuck Sad Roger, the Wizard. Do you think they'll like that video?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not let us know if you did?